Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom with Kate Olson. As an evolving spirit and change adventure navigator, it is Kate's mission to empower and guide you on your path and inspire your truest passions. She will encourage you to share your gifts, speak your truth, and ignite your inner wisdom and purpose. She hopes to do so with a little humor and grace and her own soulfire passion. Kate talks with amazing guests who have embraced the pursuit and are fanning the flames of their own passion, purpose, and soulfire wisdom. Now here's your host, Kate.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom and Totally Awesome, Try Something New and Talk About It Tuesday. If this is your first time listening, I'm a hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, Reiki master, and a life coach. And I like to call myself a change adventure navigator because I love guiding people through obstacles and adversity to find their path, purpose, and peace. So what I did this week, the new thing that I did this week was my mom grew up during the Depression, and because of that, she developed some habits that stayed with her kind of lifelong, like, saving the last, bottom of the, bit of something that you probably should throw away, even, when she bought a replacement for it, like things like makeup or paint or some kind of supply item, she would still have that little bit of that item tucked away, even though she was using a new container of something. And this was something that kind of drove me crazy as a kid. But I kind of unconsciously carried it forward into my own life, and not for everything, because, I did remember that it drove me crazy to have those, little bits of something hanging around. But on some things, it turns out that I do the same thing. Like, I started going through my bathroom cabinets, and I noticed that I had little bits, containers with makeup or blush or lipstick, that it was all gone except for, the very last remnants. But I had saved those. And even though I bought a replacement and was using that, and I think the thought in my mind was the same as my mom, that, in case she ran out, or in case she couldn't buy a new one, that she would have this last little bit that she could rely on. So what I did this week is I cleaned out all of those and I threw them away. And I said to myself, I don't need this anymore. I can throw this away because there is an abundance in my life, and I can get whatever I need. So sometimes we have little ideas hanging on that we don't need to hang on to anymore. And it's kind of really very freeing when we're able to let go of those. So give that a try. So we have a great show planned for today. I'm really excited to have Edie Weinstein here today. And Edie delights in inviting people to live rich, full lives. She's an internationally recognized, sought-after journalist, interviewer, author, an editor, a speaker, licensed social worker, interfaith minister, as well as a bliss coach, event producer, certified laughter yoga leader, cuddle party facilitator, and the founder of Hug Mobsters, which offers free hugs events worldwide. Edie is the author of The Bliss Mistress Guide to Transforming the Ordinary into the Extraordinary. She expresses herself in a myriad of ways, and I'm happy to have her here today to do one of her favorite things, talking about her passion. So I'm going to introduce Edie now. Hi, Edie. How are you?
Terrific. It was funny you said one of her favorite things, talking, and I went, yeah, that would be it. That would be talking. My mother used to say when she died in 2010, but she used to say all throughout my life that I started talking at 6 months and never stopped. So
Yeah.
be talking with you today.
Well, that's a good thing. I guess you had something to say.
Mm-hmm.
So to get started, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what brought you to your current path?
Sure. I grew up in a very loving, supportive, nurturing family, 2 happily married parents, a younger sister, in Willingboro, New Jersey, which is one of the original Levittown communities, like Levittown, New York, Levittown, Pennsylvania, and Levittown, New Jersey. And it was, I tend to idealize my childhood because it was the kind of neighborhood where you could go out in the morning, in the summer morning, ride your bike, go to the pool, hang out, come home for lunch, go back out. This was long before cell phones, so our parents couldn't check up on us. They just knew we were safe, or we could go to any neighbor's house if we needed to call them, anything like that. And it was, I think, a pretty well integrated neighborhood. Community. It wasn't just a neighborhood, but a community. So I had friends, from all different cultures, all different skin hues, all different religions. And the reason I bring that up now is because of what we're going through as we're recording this, that tensions for all different reasons are at an all-time high. So having that background of the love and support of family, the love and support of community helped me to do a lot of the things that I'm doing now. My parents were, I would call them workaholics, but not to the point that they ignored us. They made everything look so easy. They both had jobs. They had a loving, wonderful marriage. They were great parents. They volunteered in their communities, at hospital, synagogue. My dad was a firefighter. So they modeled, community involvement, volunteerism. So that's something that looms large in my life too, being of service. They volunteered that. So I'm learning that I can be of service and make a living doing it. I'm a social worker, and among other things, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And one of the memes that I see online has this saying that says, social work, in it for the outcome, not the income. And it makes me want to gag, because people who do service work, we have bills to pay too. So I've learned to integrate what I do as a passion, which is connect people, which is connect with people, and support myself doing it. So that's how I got to where I am now.
Great. So what would you say your core passion is, and how do you see your purpose?
Well, I would say my core passion is using communication, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, whether it's writing, speaking, hugging, and we'll talk more about the Hug Mobsters Armed with Love that I do. And it's communicating love. It's communicating a sense of belonging with other people. It's being a safe haven for people. I'm what I call a privileged listener, along with hairdressers, bartenders, cab drivers, clergy, people that other folks go to vent, to unburden themselves, unpack whatever is going on for them. So that's one of my passions, is being that safe presence for people. And my purpose is to do that, is to be a people person. I was really fortunate that I grew up with a father who grew up in South Philadelphia. And if you think about, whatever neighborhood, multicultural neighborhood is in everybody's childhood, the Rocky movies were filmed in South Philly. So my dad knew everybody. And any place we went, he always knew someone. And my dad was a blue-collar guy. He was a milkman and a bus driver for all of his career, but he could schmooze with anybody of any socioeconomic background. And I got that talent from him. Have you ever heard of, I forget the name of the book, but Malcolm Gladwell, having a middle-aged moment, can't remember the book, but he talks about how some people are connectors by nature. And that's me.
Yes.
The concept of 6 degrees of separation.
Mm-hmm.
In my life, there are no degrees. I always know somebody who knows somebody.
Yes, it was interesting how on the post for the show, my friend from the Philadelphia area, who I guess lives in the same area you do,
right,
mentioned that she knew you, and then I mentioned how when you were on Embrace Change and I had the flower lady on too, you guys knew each other, and I didn't know that before the show, and then Anne said, yes, I know her too.
Right. Well, Patricia Gallagher is a dear friend, flower lady, and then Anne is part of our, Patricia and Anne and I are part of a spiritual community called Circle of Miracles. Yeah. So that's how we overlap as well. I call them overlapping soul circles, where we know people who know people. There's always something. And you and I are on separate coasts. So you're in California? Is that
no, I'm in Seattle.
Seattle, okay.
How I connected with you, and you might not know this, is I went down to Salem, Oregon, and for an interview with on Beely Coyne's the cable show that he did, and he was having Tom Zeman on after me. So I met Tom, and Tom said, "You really need to know this lady," and so he connected me with you, and then we've done blogs and shows, and then I met Anne at a speaking event at the Harvard Faculty Club, and we've been there a couple times, so we became friends, and we're on opposite coasts too.
Right.
Yeah. So, small world.
So all overlapping. And Tom became a dear friend who I met face to face, and I'm editing a book that he's written about relationships. So that's one of the things that I'm doing now in quarantine is editing. So and I've never met Beely Coyne. He's a friend of Tom's, and we're Facebook friends.
I know. I met him because I went down to his
But Anne and Patricia and I are face-to-face friends. And I was going to say the real world, but that Facebook is the real world too. In the face-to-face world is the way I describe it.
Yeah, there's different aspects of. They're all real, but they're different modes. So, when did you know that you were meant to be a communicator? Was that always apparent to you?
In childhood, as I said, my father could talk to anybody. The party began when he entered the room, and he wasn't a loud, rowdy person. He didn't drink, but he was a people magnet. And my mother, who claimed that she was shy, was kind of a softer version, that people would come to her and talk. She was the rock on which everybody leaned. So I learned that from both of them, about being able to talk to people where they were. And even if we didn't have the same life experiences, there was some common thread that bound us together. And my parents were really good at weaving those threads. Just a good example. At Passover, when we had the Seder at our home, my parents would invite friends from their workplaces, most of whom were not Jewish. They would encourage us to invite friends, Some of them were Jewish, some of them weren't. And friends now remind me, oh yeah, I went to your house when we were in college or in high school, and I remember how your parents were so welcoming and brought everybody together. So they taught me the art of hospitality and of seeing the value in everybody. So I think that's where it got shaped as well. And I
Yeah.
credit them with so much wisdom. They two things that they told me a lot of things, but two things that I call momisms and dad wisdom. My mother used to say, walk in like you own the joint, with your head held high and shoulders back and making eye contact. And my dad would say they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do, so I wouldn't be intimidated by anybody. And that enables me to connect with other people too. Rarely do I feel fluttery when I talk to people. Rarely do I feel nervous about approaching them.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So, which of your many communication talents are you most passionate about, or what would you say is your favorite form of communication?
Writing. I've been a writer since I was a kid. I would write short stories, poems. I took a few creative writing classes in high school. I'm not formally trained as a journalist. I don't have a degree in journalism, but I've always been a storyteller. And I consider writing, now I write nonfiction. I've never written a novel. I'm not really interested in that, but I tell people stories when I write. In 1988, my husband and I started publishing a magazine called Visions, had to do with holistic health and wellness, spirituality, environmental concerns, peace and social justice, those kind of things. And it's where I cut my teeth on journalism. I would do the feature interviews. And I've interviewed people like Shirley MacLaine, Ben and Jerry, Ram Dass, Wayne Dyer, Bernie Siegel, who else? Marianne Williamson, Debbie Ford, Deepak Chopra, the movers and shakers in the spiritual fields. And then in 2008, I interviewed His Holiness the Dalai Lama. That was my dream of a lifetime interview. And what I like about writing is that it flows through me. I never get writer's block. I get writer's runs where I just can't stop.
I can say that's true. I've called on Edie several times to do a blog, and she's always, it's been like, yes, and she does it like right away. It's not like she takes a long time.
Excuse me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I figured because, and I don't mean to be putting myself down, but at 61, I've been having more middle-aged moments, and I need to strike while the iron's hot. While I'm thinking of something, if I have the time to do it, I do it right away, because then I won't have to say, oh, did I do that? I forget. Did I, And it's the same thing with dreams. When I wake up with a dream, I document it somehow, so I'll remember it. Good. So that's where, where writing comes in. When I can't sleep, I write. And years ago, I went to see this psychic and was talking to her about relationships and all kinds of things. And she said, what did she say? Your partner or soulmate or something will be your muse. And I don't know whether initially I didn't know whether she meant that person would be my inspiration. But I think what she really meant was that my writing, my creativity would be my soulmate. Whether or not there's a human version of it out there, she didn't, she wasn't sure. But I talk about the muse as like an insatiable lover that won't let me sleep until I do its bidding, until I write whatever comes through. So I think that's something I get really fired up about, is writing. And for better or for worse, there's so many writing prompts out there in the world right now. And I have been writing a lot about the virus, about quarantine, about peace and social justice. And it's part of my personal therapy, because I do find it really healing and therapeutic to write this stuff out rather than storing it up in here or in here.
Yes, I feel that way as well. So what I come across a lot of people who they are looking for their passion. They aren't definite about it like you are. And so what would you tell someone that's trying to discover what their passion is?
Okay. Well, I would ask them what lights them up from the inside and what turns them into a human sparkler. What is it that when they talk about, their heart races and they get, oh, this is so exciting, or I can't wait to do this. I would do it even if I didn't get paid to do it. For some people, it's gardening. For some people, it's music, it's art, it's raising a child, it's taking care of animals, it's being a social activist. For me, it's being a writer. For some people, it's being a teacher. So whatever it is that you can't not do, that's your passion.
Yes.
It may even be your purpose. So I don't know if they're always one and the same. And the other thing is, what is it you're curious about? What do you wonder about? I want to learn more about that subject. And that could become your passion and your purpose.
Yes, true. Some people discover their passion early, and others, just kind of stumble on it later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And one's not any more valuable than the other. If you, like me, if you know early on what your passion is, then you have a longer time to pursue it and to enjoy it. But if it's something new, I mean, there are plenty of people our age, our generation that discover new passions and new purposes as they're living their lives, and it can change in a heartbeat.
yes, and sometimes you have it, like when you're a child, you have that thing, but
Yeah.
you let it go because you think, yeah, that's not something I can do with my life, So, and then you have to go back and rediscover that, you can.
Right. Yeah. And for me, it has to be something that makes a difference in the world. That I can't just do it for me, that I'm doing it for the service of other people and of life in general. And I call it, I don't call it channeling, but I call it kind of like downloads where inspiration will come through. Could be in a dream, could be in a meditation, could be just when I'm walking somewhere, doing something. These little snippets will come to me. And today I was talking to a client and I said something about, what is it that you do to unwind so you don't unravel? And that's, I think in metaphors, and I speak in metaphors sometimes. And then what was another one recently where people have been talking about the new normal with the quarantine and the state of the world? I said, not the new normal, the now normal. This is what's normal today for right now. It could change tomorrow.
Well, I hope it does.
Yeah. And what I think about the new normal is like, okay, we better get used to not touching people we don't live with. We better get used to wearing masks all the time forever. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a while longer, but eventually we'll be able to take off the mask. Eventually we'll be able to hug people again.
Well, I'm not sure what will happen, but I do have confidence that things are going to change. So.
Well, they always do. They always change. But do you have confidence that things are going to change for the better? That's what we need to work on.
Well, I think we can have some impact in making it so.
I agree. Yeah.
So you're one of the founders of the Hug Mobsters. Please tell us a little bit about the group and what you do.
Sure. Okay. Hug Mobsters Armed with Love was founded Valentine's Day weekend 2014. I had brought a group of friends to 30th Street Station, which is a big train station in Philadelphia, for a free hugs flash mob, because I wanted people to see that love isn't just one day of the year, and love isn't just for couples, it's for everybody. And hugging is a really good way of showing love. So I think there were about a dozen of us, and we descended on the station, and the instruction was, walk around and ask people, would you like a hug? We didn't do, swoop by kamikaze hugs. We had to ask, and they had to say yes, and then we hugged them. If they said no, we just said, okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And while we were hugging, this man approached us who told us he was an Iraq war vet who was the only survivor of his platoon, and he had survivor's guilt, and he had thought about ending his life. He said, that was until I met you people. Can I join you? So, waterfall tears, of course. And we handed him a sign that said, free hugs, and he walked around and hugged people. And at that moment, my thought was, hugs save lives. I don't know what happened to that man. I don't know. He never told us his name. Couldn't even identify him in a crowd now. But he's out there somewhere, hopefully, having hugged a whole bunch of people. And friends started calling us hug mobsters, hug mob, flash mob. And I said, ooh, mobsters, guns, drugs, violence, mafia. I don't think so. And then I thought, what about armed with love? And so that's what we became. Fast forward to June 12th, 2014, I had a heart attack on the way home from the gym at 55 years old, totally out of the blue. And as part of my cardiac rehab, I walked around my little town of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and I thought, why don't I combine the hugging with the walking? Because hugs are cardiac friendly, they just help your heart, but they're also emotionally heart healthy. So I made up a sign, started walking around town and offering people hugs. And I would say 90% of the people said yes. Now, it could have been because I was a woman, could have been because of the way I approached them. And the ones that said no, my response to them was, thank you for taking care of yourself. Hug somebody in your life. Hug a tree if you need to, but make that connection with someone, even if it's not me. And then a friend commissioned a sign to be made. We have a local artist who made the sign, and another friend of mine for a birthday present commissioned her to make these two signs for me. And they had our logo on it, which was a heart with hands. Excuse me, it said hug mobsters armed with love. So it's a pretty big sign that that I carry around. And I do it in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, New York, Maryland, Virginia. Last summer I was in Ontario, Canada, like near Toronto, visiting friends, so I hugged there. But the coolest one was 2 years ago, about a week or so ago. I hugged my way across Ireland, and I got a lot more yeses there than I have any place else. So I don't know if Irish people are just huggier than people that are not of that culture, but it was quite something. So I estimate I've hugged a few thousand people probably in that period of time.
Great. So we're at a time when most of us can't hug, but we can still love. What suggestions would you offer as to how, with physical distancing and sometimes isolation, we can still express our love?
Okay. And that was one of those inspirational things that came to me. Even though we can't hug, we can still love. So other ways to show love, conversations with people. I am so grateful for the marvels of modern technology, the internet, telephone. So I FaceTime with people, or I do Zoom calls, or I text. We talk on the phone. Face-to-face contact with people at a distance. If you're too close, wearing a mask, but if you're far enough away, excuse me, going maskless. I'm not sick. I've been talking all day. I talk for a living. I'm a therapist. So doing that, doing good deeds for people, going shopping for them, mowing their lawns, what else? Going to the pharmacy to pick up prescriptions for them, driving them places if they can't drive, serenading them, sending cards. Tom and his wife Michelle sent me a gift about 3 weeks ago. I guess it was for Mother's Day, a box of chocolate-covered strawberries. They know me too well. Chocolate is my drug of choice. So that was a nice surprise gift. People are celebrating people's anniversaries or birthdays or graduations by having drive-by honking parties, and we're having yard or street celebrations. I know people that have street sing, they serenade each other, or they do dance parties from their yards. There are people that write with chalk on sidewalks in front of people's houses. Just positive things like that. Even in the supermarket, if I'm wearing a mask, I do eye hugs with people. I'll make eye contact with them, like scrunch up like that. I talk to people and thank them for their service. Like if I'm in a supermarket, I always tell the person at the checkout counter that I really appreciate that you're here. What's this like for you? How are you handling this? I wish I could hug you, that kind of thing. So that's another way of showing love. Telling people you love them. Telling people that they matter to you. Realizing that we are all in this together. This virus doesn't care what side of the political aisle you're on. It doesn't care what you do for a living. The interesting thing about it is that I found that it's random. I was describing it to a friend today. It's being like a tornado that rips down the street and knocks over 3 or 4 houses and then skips the next 10 and then knocks over another 5. I know people that are in high-risk groups that aren't sick. I know people that you would think were not in high-risk groups that have gotten sick. Some have died. I don't know them personally, but I know of. So valuing the people in your life, because you don't know from day to day who's going to be around. You know? So telling people what they mean, what you mean, what they mean to you. So those are some of the things that I encourage people to do.
Yeah, just you never know when a small thing can, really have a big impact.
Oh yeah,
at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
For someone.
Right, it can cheer people up because there are a lot of people that are isolated. I live alone, but I have wonderful family and friends. I live in a neighborhood where I can talk to my neighbors and we look out for each other. So I don't feel isolated like a lot of people do who live in cities, who may not know their neighbors, who aren't close to family physically or emotionally, who are going through withdrawals from being with people.
Yeah.
So those are the folks that I encourage you to check up on.
Yeah, some people isolate themselves, more than they need to. Mm-hmm. Like I always say happy birthday to everybody. That's just on my list. So I've had people say, thank you so much for saying happy birthday to me. Only a few people did. Yeah. And then I look at their profile and they're one of the people that, I had to specifically go to their profile to say happy birthday to them. They don't have it set up so that people can say happy birthday. Right. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of wonder why, everybody didn't say happy birthday.
Yeah. Well, there are people that are not socially comfortable that prefer to be on their own, not necessarily prefer to isolate, but maybe don't know how to reach out to the world.
Yeah.
I've worked with clients who are loving being in quarantine because it means they don't have to go out. It means they don't have to interact with people, and this is their safe haven. They love being at home. So there is a balance. There are always people on either side of that fence. I'm a people person, so I miss interacting with a lot of friends. I look around my house, my living room, which is where I am right now, and I remember parties and gatherings here, and I wonder when I'm going to be able to do that again, but the memory of it is still there. And I encourage people who may be feeling isolated to remember, when was the last hug that you had? And yeah, you might feel sad, and then think about, okay, what's the next hug I'm going to anticipate? Who is it that I'm going to want to hug? So think about that and tell the people that you're talking to, I have this memory of our time together. Whether you put it in writing or whether you say it out loud, let them know why they mean what they mean to you. Because the reality is everyone is on loan to us. Nobody lives forever. So except in here, they live in your heart. But it's a great opportunity to realize, oh yeah, that I remember this happened. I have friends that I hadn't talked to in like 20 years that about a month ago she reached out to me. So I talked to her and her husband, and she said, remember we did this, remember that, remember, and I went, wow, you have a good memory. I don't remember all those things. So that's helpful too, is to remember why you matter to people and why they matter to you.
So in every aspect of your life, you need to be as attentive to listening as you are to speaking. Did listening come as naturally to you as talking did?
No. I had to learn to listen. When I was a chatterbox when I was a kid. And when I was in college, I was studying psychology, and one of the concepts that we learned was about active listening. And that's a really simple counseling technique where you listen and reflect back to the person what they said. So I also had to slow down and listen, because my tendency is to run 100 miles an hour. And I've had to learn when I'm speaking to certain clients or anybody when I'm doing public speaking to slow down. The other thing is that most people listen with the intent to respond, not the intent to take in what the other person is saying. And that takes a lot of practice because we all have so much we want to say and so much we want to get across in a conversation. But I know that when I feel listened to, like really fully present, like I'm the only person in the room, even if I'm not, then I feel treasured. I feel like I matter. So listening helps with that, where I want people to feel like they matter when they're talking to me.
Yes, that's important. And I don't think there's anybody alive who couldn't improve their listening skills. For me, listening did come, kind of naturally. That was actually probably came before speaking, because I used to, listen to people. I would listen to people and then I would reflect on what they said, kind of just as a child. I was like that. And I kind of had to learn the talking part. But still, even though that kind of came naturally, it's still something that I've had to improve it. I've done a lot of those things that you mentioned, like, being so focused on what I wanted to say that I didn't quite get all of what the person was saying, and, things like that. So I think everybody needs to work on that listening a little bit.
And it's a skill that can be learned. Absolutely. Yeah.
So did you have any mentors or motivators? You did mention your parents, but who inspired you as a communicator?
Well, my dear friend, Dr. Yvonne Kay, has been my mentor for over 30 years now. She was at one point a radio talk show host in Philadelphia on broadcast station WWDB, and I would listen to her, and she's got a delightful British accent. She was born in London, and what I liked about her before she became my mentor was just her straightforward, no-nonsense, call it as she sees it approach to communicating with people, but she was also an excellent listener. And when I finally met her, she used to write for our magazine, and then I had worked with her on several issues in my life that she helped guide me through. And I realized what a treasure she's been because of her learned and lived experiences. She grew up in London during World War II, so she was there during the Blitzkrieg and when the bombs were falling, and she developed a sense of resilience. I think she's probably one of the most resilient people I know. So when she came here, she has 4 children. She raised them as a single parent. She went to school, got her PhD in thanatology, which is the study of death, loss, and grief. And she also got involved in the addictions field, the addictions recovery field. She became an author, a speaker, a therapist. She is just remarkable. And since my mom died, she's been like a mama figure for me. So, I consider her my mentor, but we have I would say more of an equal relationship now, where she comes to me for some guidance too. So it's a very balanced relationship. And what I like about her is that she's a badass. She's got, how many 86-year-olds do you know that have, I think she's got at least a half a dozen tattoos. She loves Bob Marley, David Bowie, and who else? Bob Marley, David Bowie, and who was the third one? Middle-aged moment again. It'll come to me. But David Bowie, Bob Marley, and oh well, she'll have to. If you ever have her on her show, she'll have to tell you who they are. But she's just a remarkable woman.
Yes.
And so Yvonne is definitely a mentor for me. Yeah. And she knows Patricia Gallagher also.
Okay. So I think at the present time, communication and connection have taken on a special importance. Do you feel that this time is calling us to connect on a deeper level?
Yes, Freddie Mercury, by the way. Okay. I had to say it before it came out, but yes, it is calling on us to communicate on a deeper level, because we don't necessarily have the ability to connect face to face with people. Even though I can see your face, you can see mine, we're still not here. We're not physically in proximity. So I encourage people to speak from the heart and listen with the ears of the heart, and see people for who they really are. And one of the things that I think is going to come out of this whole fiasco that we're finding ourselves in is that we're really going to have to listen to each other, particularly people with different opinions, without demonizing them for having them. Now, as crunchy granola, left of center hippie, you know what my agenda might be. And there are people, very few people in my life that are on the other side of the aisle, but I listen to them. I don't demonize them. I don't put them down. I don't name call. But I do attempt to understand why they feel the way they do, for the purpose of admittedly changing their minds, so they can see things a little bit differently. But I know that I don't have that power to change anybody's mind, that it's an inside job. And respecting people's, I don't even know, respecting their experience, because I think people's right to feel the way, right to their opinion, or the right to the expression of the opinion, stops when it harms another person.
Yes,
And,
it's a puzzle and a curiosity to me in some cases. I have relatives on the other side of the aisle, and I know that they're good-hearted people who basically want the same thing that I do, but they have this entirely different view. And I'm kind of compelled to try to understand where that thinking is coming from.
Right.
So,
yeah. So a question that I might ask somebody who feels that way is, if what you want is this, can you think of another way to achieve that without that, without whatever it is that you think you need to do to get there?
yes.
And to appeal to somebody's sense of, I would like to think that they're a good-hearted person, even if they don't believe the way I believe. I would like to think that, that they're aware that we all drink the same water and breathe the same air. I would like to think they're concerned about the next generations. So if that's the case, let's figure out a cooperative way to get there.
Yes, I saw a post that two of my relatives liked on Facebook just yesterday, and it was on the abortion issue. And they said, wouldn't it be great if adoption was fully funded instead of abortion? And they posted and liked that. And yes, it would be wonderful if adoption were fully funded. But the premise behind that, they are believing a lie that abortion is funded by the government, and it is not. And most of the people on the right to choice side don't believe that it should be.
Right, it should be funded by the government.
Yes, so there's an argument there that doesn't exist.
Right, I agree. And in conversation with people that call themselves pro-life, I talk about the difference between pro-life and pro-birth. That if somebody is in favor of a child being born, are they in favor of that child getting the care that they need? When do we stop valuing human life? Do we stop valuing human life when it's somebody who's of a different color, or different nationality or different sexual orientation. That person was once a fetus. That person was once a newborn. So be consistent, people. That's what I would
Yes,
say.
that is
if you're
one of the things that frustrates me. Like, I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to say I am pro-choice, but I am not pro-abortion. I mean, I would, I'm in favor of people having the choice to make that decision if they want to. I would prefer that they, make a different decision.
Right.
And I would prefer that we educate people so that they know all the options. And I would prefer that we supported all of those choices.
Yeah.
But my preferences don't, they're just my preferences. They aren't, what is going on in our world.
And each one of us can only be responsible for our own beliefs and our own lived experience. I can't make you believe anything that you're not inclined to believe, and you can't make me believe anything I'm inclined to believe. However, I have seen people change their minds. I have seen people who would be, like, there's all kinds of stories about neo-Nazis and KKK members who've turned their lives around and have decided not to pursue hatred.
Yes, I believe that people do have the capability to change their minds.
Right.
And to, form a different decision given all of the information. Whether they will or not, I don't know, but I believe that they're capable.
And all we can do is speak the truth. All we can do is speak with love. Even when I disagree with people, even when I disagree with the government or the administration, whatever you want to call it, I don't use hate speech. I don't call anybody names. I don't put anybody down. I try to express, I do try to do my research before I, say, well, did you read this article? Did you, there are some people who will never see anything any differently because it's just how they choose to live their lives. And I may never be able to change that. So I need to be the best version of me that I can be. And I tell people, just be kind to each other. It's my Mr. Rogers persona. Just be kind to each other.
So, how do you think the times we're currently experiencing will affect the way we communicate going forward?
That's a tough one, because the times we are experiencing have given carte blanche for people to say mean and hurtful and hateful things. It's given permission for the destruction that we're seeing going on right now. And the riots that are going on right now, the people are just, some people, again, I'm not saying everybody, are given permission to say things that are hurtful and hateful. And if we're going to survive as a species, the planet's going to be here. I don't think the planet's going to blow up. But whether or not humans survive as a species has to do with mutual cooperation and communication and respect. So finding a way to say to somebody that you disagree with, I disagree with you. Let's find a common ground. Let's find something we can agree on, because we gotta live together. Even if we're seeing things through two totally different lenses, we have to find a way. I was watching, I'm a Star Trek fan from way back, and I was watching an episode of the original series, with Kirk and Spock and McCoy and all that, and it was perfectly timed, and I don't know if it was intentional, but it was something like, let this be your last battleground, and it was about these two men who are the only survivors of their planet, and one was black on one side, white on the other, and the other was white on one side, black on the other, and one of them was a bounty hunter that was chasing down the other one, who was a revolutionary, an activist. And he was, the activist was saying to the bounty hunter, your kind have hunted us down for centuries and enslaved us. And he was saying, the bounty hunter was saying, well, you didn't appreciate all that we did for you. And this is how you repay our gratitude by killing our people. And they were both going at it. And I'm watching this thinking, this was made in the 1960s, maybe 60s or 70s. And now, it could just as easily be people that are talking now. And they end up both beaming down to the planet, and the cities are burning. And nobody is alive but the two of them. And there was some line about hatred. I forget what it was. But, the concept was that we don't have the luxury of hating each other, even if we're different. Even if we have different opinions, we don't have that luxury because it's going to kill us eventually.
And the thing that, bothers me at the core is the attitude that lying is okay, that you can lie if it serves your ends.
Right.
And, I grew up believing that was wrong, that there was truth, and that it was important to find the truth and to know the truth, and that it wasn't okay to lie to, achieve whatever end that you were looking for. And back in the 60s, when similar things were going on, that belief was still there.
Right.
And
but
it's not to be right now.
Well, I think, I grew up, where I remember when I was a little kid, when my mother would ask me if I did something, I would say, honest, I didn't. And I crossed my fingers behind my back, and I didn't know how I learned to do that. Maybe I saw it on a cartoon or something, that a character crossed their fingers behind their back. But she always knew. My mother always knew. She had eyes in back of her head, is what she said. So when I was little, I would kind of part her hair and look to see. She said, what are you doing? I said, I'm looking for your eyes in back of your head. She never told me it was symbolic. That's all. She said they just went into hiding. That's all. But somebody would call that a lie. She was lying to her little kid. She doesn't really. But I know now she meant symbolic eyes in the back of her head. But you're right. And when leaders lie, they give carte blanche for other people to lie. And kids are asking their parents, well, how come if this person lies, I can't lie? And my mother would say, 2 wrongs don't make a right. That's another thing, one of her aphorisms too. So what I would say to a child is, it's not okay for that person to lie, and they never learned any better. But I'm teaching you how not to lie. I'm teaching you to tell the truth. When my son was young, I used to say to him, my deepest wish for you is that you be a man of integrity, that you're somebody that people can trust. And he is. He's definitely a man of integrity, and I'm honored, and I'm really proud of him for that. He's somebody that people can count.
Well, that's a value I hope we can resurrect, because okay, are you optimistic, and do you see positive outcomes coming from these challenging times?
Well, you use the word optimistic, but I call myself an optimistic, OPTI-MYSTIC. Again, another one of those downloads where either in a dream or meditation, the words came to me, you're not just an optimist, you're an optimistic who sees the world through the eyes of possibility. So yes, I am optimistic about the possibilities that we face. Never in any of our lifetimes have we had so much happen in such a short period of time that could either be devastating. It is devastating, but could either be a major loss or a major win. And I'm not talking about political win. I'm not talking about financial win. I'm talking about the future of humankind. And I like the term humankind, but the kind of people we are, and the kindness that we can exhibit to each other. So yes, I am optimistic that things can get better, because I've seen so many examples of people working together. I've watched pretty much all of the fundraisers, the comedy fundraisers, and the concerts, and the performers working from home to raise money for I forget what it's called, but it was like a hunger organization. And I see people pulling together because we're either going to be able to row the boat, the world boat, not just this country, in a safe direction, or we're going to capsize and we're all going to drown. So I encourage people to take turns paddling, to do the best you can to make sure that it's going in a positive direction, because it's so easy to get depressed. It's so easy to be pessimistic about this, but we don't have the choice. We don't have the option of being pessimistic.
Right. So we're almost out of time, but I want to ask you one last question. If you could leave the listeners with one thought from today's show, what would you want that to be?
Love yourself and love the world. Don't exclude anybody from your love. Don't hate anybody. And probably the hardest person for people to love is the person in the mirror. So whatever you've learned about any unloving thoughts about yourself, do your best to unlearn them. Treat yourself. Imagine when you were a child, a baby. If you have any baby pictures of yourself, pull it out and say, are you any less worthy of love and care and compassion and nurturing as that little child? And then treat yourself as you would that little, as you wanted that little child to be treated. And treat other people with loving kindness, because that's how we're going to blossom. That's how we're going to recover from this. Love is a miracle healing potion. So love yourself, love the world, with all you got. And hug in whatever way you can, whether it's physical or emotional or spiritual. Just hug the world. Imagine holding the globe, the planet, and just hug it, because it needs it big time.
Yes. Symbolically and real life.
Yeah.
So can you give the listeners, tell them how they could contact you if they wanted to?
My website is www.opti-mystical, mystical.com. My email address is bydivinedesign@comcast.net, and I'll spell it. B as in boy, Y as in yellow, DIVINE, divine like God, design@comcast.net. I'm also on Facebook as Edie Weinstein. That's EDIEWEINSTEIN. And those are the best ways to reach me.
Okay. So I have never been to Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to come there someday when we travel again and visit my friend Anne. And I have to get one of those hug mobster hugs. So.
Absolutely. Yep. We can meet at the Love Sculpture in Philly, which is an iconic location right by City Hall. I've done a couple of hug strolls there, hug events there. So absolutely, I would love to give you, a great big in-person hug. But in the meantime, this will have to do.
Yes. So I have a couple of quotes for you, the audience, to carry with them through the week. And the most basic of all human needs is a need to understand and be understood. The best way to understand people is to listen to them. And that was said by Ralph Nichols. And it seems rather incongruous that in society of super sophisticated communication, we often suffer from a shortage of listeners. And that was said by Irma Bombeck. So I encourage you to speak up, and I encourage you to listen. So I want to thank you, Edie, for coming on and talking about communication. I think it's really important right now, and you do it so well. And I have another great show planned for next week. My guest will be Dr. Patricia Ballone, and we're going to be talking about aging vibrantly and brilliantly. and she is, among many things, she is a doctor of chiropractic, and she has functional medicine and acupuncture and several other areas of specialty, which we'll talk more about when she's on the show next week. So be sure and tune in for that show. And we're a little over time, so I'm just going to say bye for now. Have a great week, and talk to somebody special and give them a hug. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Soul Fire Wisdom with Kate Olson. We hope you enjoyed the show. If we made you laugh, brightened your day, or sparked a new thought, we have succeeded in our mission. Join us next time when we'll share more secrets and truths and all the magic of transformation that is the journey to Soul Fire Wisdom. Always remember, be fierce in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.